Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Okay, so we're talking a lot about freedom here and about oppression, about stuff that's happening in the outside world and what parts of it we don't like. And for me personally, it is very important to also think about freedoms we actually have and about things that we can use, can change about ourselves to become better. So this whole life experience that we are having can be fine-tuned in many ways. And I'm going to talk about my experiments with doing stuff with my body, eating different things, seeing the different effects, and I'm gonna share with you some of the experiments I've been trying on myself and with friends. We had a similar workshop, I would say alpha version of this workshop, which was longer but more detailed, but it was held in our office where we kind of shared all the various ideas that we can try on ourselves and see what works and what doesn't. So again, it's important to think about things that you can do and that you can apply in your life. Everybody's biology is different, so don't be surprised if many of these hacks won't work on you. The key is to try it out. So I'm going to start with some very popular things. So I don't know how many of you know that you can actually use fat as energy. So we often think when we are tired and we need to, learn for the exam or finish this project and have this deadline. What we usually do is we eat sugar. So chocolate has been recommended, and eating a lot of sugar, and it powers the brain, and then we can focus. So I'm gonna talk about an alternative, which is using fats for this purpose, and I want to show that they might be better, and they often are better for this case. So first of all, let's see what sugar does. So when you eat sugar, it triggers insulin release, and insulin is kind of a switch between using sugar as energy and storing sugar in the fat cells. So if you have excess sugar, your insulin release is higher, and your body tries to get rid of the glucose. What happens is you will end up, let's see if this works somehow. What do I need? Okay, but without this button. Okay, so what happens here is that insulin actually removes glucose from your blood, but you still have a lot of it in your bloodstream, which causes a sugar craving. So it makes you hungry, it makes you crave more sugar. I found out about this very easily because we have a lot of couches and kind of fake beds in our office, and a lot of people, a few minutes or a few hours after lunch, they would just fall off and fall asleep after lunch. You probably experienced this as well. So you had a lunch, you ate, a lot of pasta, spaghetti, or bread, or something like that, and you just couldn't focus. There was this mental fog in your before your eyes or in your brain, and you just couldn't do anything, and you fell down and slept for a few hours. So we think of this as common thing that's happening to everyone, and that's part of the digestion process, and it's not actually true. It's caused by this blood sugar and insulin thing. So let me talk a little bit about sugar in the history, very far history. Our ancestors, the hunter-gatherers, they were hunting for food, and during few months, depending on where they lived, they could actually eat fruit. So they found some fruit on the tree. They ate, you know, an ancient orange or ancient something that doesn't look as our current orange. They had this extra sugar, and they said, cool, you know, we are hunting, and I found this extra source of energy. Let's store it as fat. So it got stored. There was no more sugar, so people were eating usual produce and what they caught. So normally, in normal day-to-day life, they used fats as energy, and there's quite a bit different types of fat. Actually, I want to start with one recommendation, and that is find any sunflower and rapeseed oil you have at home and throw it into trash. Really, don't feed it to even animals. It's not a good idea. Why? It oxidizes on the sun, it is very unstable, and actually fat is what your cell membranes are made of. So imagine you are building your cell membranes out of something that oxidizes and it's not stable under different conditions. You don't want your cells made out of that. Throw it away immediately. Then there are good fats. They provide long-lasting energy without those spikes. So there is not a similar process with insulin when you use fat as energy. So really good fats are coconut oil, butter or ghee, animal fat, and these three types are good for everything, including cooking. So if you ask me what should I cook on instead of sunflower oil, coconut oil or butter is great. There are even some people who bring butter with them all the time, and when they order food on the restaurant, they just put a spoon of butter on top of it just for extra kick of energy. I carry a small doses of coconut oil for this purpose because it's more stable. It doesn't need to be in the fridge. Then there's this special oil called MCT oil. It's a part of coconut oil that contains only medium chain fats. That's actually the fastest way you can get energy, because to digest and to convert MCT oil to energy, your body needs only 5 chemical reactions. To convert glucose into energy that can be used, for example, by brain, you need 9 chemical reactions. So this is actually faster than sugar. So if you can find this extract, it's actually only 8% of coconut oil. So for the same dose, you would need to eat a lot of coconut oil to get the same effect. But if you get MCT oil extract from coconut oil, then that's like the fastest way to get energy anytime, and it won't lead to a crash as with sugar, so much better. Good fat is also olive oil, but it is not as good for cooking, so put it on salads, everything, great source of energy. Okay, so I said that you can actually run your body on fat only. So I have a colleague who is a runner. He runs ultramarathons, so 100 kilometers is like funny evening run for him. And he's using pure ketosis, so he's running only on fats. He doesn't actually eat any carbs or I think under 15 grams of carbs a day, but he really avoids carbs, so he's eating things like avocado with butter and things like that. For this you need an adaptation process because your body is so used to sugar, so it takes quite a long time, and it's the first few weeks are very painful. Fortunately there's a hack how to do it. MCT oil actually converts straight to ketones, so you don't have to go through the adaptation process if you eat MCT oil, so you can just change your biology basically immediately. You get energy from the ketones, and and you can use it as fuel. And it also supports ketosis with other fats. So it actually supports your daily energy intake. What I do, I eat some carbohydrates in the evening, so maybe rice or even something sweet, and it's great because when I start to get the crash, I just fall asleep. So it's kind of nice. Very important thing, if you will get, and this happened to me, when you really, if you start eating fats, you will have a lot of energy, and you will probably don't recognize hunger, because what we usually perceive is hunger is insulin crash, but you won't have those. So it actually is a different feeling, and you won't be as hungry. And it's important to eat because we get a lot of other stuff from food, not only energy. So we need, micronutrients like minerals, vitamins, and so on. So I'm not saying don't eat anything else. You actually need to think and eat more. So don't forget that. So the way I apply this is with one of these two things. I hope that there are no baristas from the cafeteria downstairs, because they would kill me, because I'm going to tell you to put stuff into coffee, which is obviously not allowed in this place. So, and it's not sugar, of course, so that would probably offend them the most. So go for great quality coffee, grass-fed butter or ghee or cocoa butter, adds a different taste. So this is a fat that will give you energy kick in about 3 or 4 hours, so not immediately. Then add MCT oil for immediate energy. And you need to blend it. When you blend it, so not mixing with a spoon, but really put it into a blender, what happens is that the caffeine attaches to the fat, and it uses this as a delivery mechanism to the brain. So it works better if you really blend it. Cinnamon is a good add-on for various other effects. So this will give you a morning caffeine kick, which a lot of us usually do anyway. Then you get energy for about 4 hours from the MCT oil, and when it goes down, you slowly get energy from the other fat you added like butter. So when I do this, I'm usually really hungry at around, depends, maybe 2 to 6 p.m. Depends on the day and when I do this. I actually like tea more than coffee, so our friend Ria Mehta invented this fat matcha. So matcha is the green powdered tea from Japan. You can buy it. I think for this it's enough to buy kitchen grade quality, so it doesn't need to be €4 per dose quality matcha. You add turmeric, the matcha green tea, cardamom, and vanilla, MCT oil, and grass-fed butter. So the same idea. You use the delivery mechanism to the brain, and this wakes you up, and it actually tastes pretty good. So breakfast. Okay, now this is a very controversial topic. Our ancestors didn't have those tablets with B12 and magnesium and vitamin C and stuff like that. But actually, almost everyone nowadays is deficient in these 3 things. It's easy to find out. Get a blood test. You don't even need to go to see your doctor. There are a lot of hospitals that you can just pay a few euros and get a blood test. So, for example, in vitamin D, even people who live in Florida are deficient in vitamin D because we don't kind of walk naked in the sun every day. And that's the major source of vitamin D. So it's like if you find out that you're deficient, it's easy to supplement. Hack for vitamin D is you can eat a week's supply at once because body can store vitamin D pretty well. So if you don't want to, eat a tablet a day, you can do it once a week and it's perfectly fine. It's even better for traveling, so you don't need, put stuff in your luggage because you can store it in your body. That's better luggage. Magnesium, it's well absorbed through skin, so you can get a magnesium bath or spray. A magnesium bath has a similar effect to opiate poppy, so do it in the evening. It will calm you down so much that you will have a problem to walk to bed because you will be so lazy. So watch out, don't do it in the morning. Spray is a lot of times per day. It's great. Vitamin B12, everyone should eat it, and other B vitamins are great. And extra bonus is that you will have with other if you eat a B complex, you will have a nice brightly yellow B. So that's cool. Almost everyone benefits from something containing omega-3. So fish oil, krill oil, or cod liver oil, I would add it in. So unless you eat a lot of grass-fed meat or a lot of fish, and by a lot I mean twice a day, you will probably benefit from this as well. Okay, one more hack. People use melatonin for some fixing of sleep disorders and for hacking jet lag. If you're hacking jet lag, you probably do, you pop it, eat melatonin before you want to sleep. That's not how you use it. So let me tell you something about melatonin, and it's also a cool hack. So the way this works, your body produces either serotonin or melatonin, and the way body knows which of these two to produce, it uses a blue light spectrum. So it's actually a receptor in your eyes, and if this receptor sees a certain part of blue light spectrum, it produces serotonin. When it's dark, the receptor doesn't receive any more blue light, and it starts producing melatonin, so it's kind of an internal clock, and melatonin regulates sleep. So what we usually do, sit at the computer until 2 a.m. and hack and watch movies and so on. So we kind of break this mechanism every day, which is not a good idea. And I recommend using Flux for macOS or Windows. And if you use Android, there's a twilight. I don't know if you can see it, but this is how funny your phone will look like. It will be kind of red after sunset, so it actually tracks the sunrise and sunset according to your location. But it's much safer to look at this phone, and it won't disrupt your internal clock and sleep. So it's easy, free hack to kind of help with this sleep cycle. Okay, so the jet lag hack. So as I said, melatonin is kind of an internal clock. So what to do 3 days before you are leaving to a target time zone, find out where the sun sets at the target time zone, take 0.5 milligram of melatonin at the target zone's sunset. Don't use time-release melatonin. You need a spike of melatonin right when the sunset happens. And then avoid sunlight and set Flux or twilight for the target's time zone. At sunrise, do the opposite thing, turn on the lights. So you won't, even if it's 4 a.m., turn on all the lights, and then you will produce serotonin, and your body will adapt in 3 days to the target's time zone. So it's not only about when you go to bed, but it's about this serotonin, melatonin regulation. Also, cool hacks are Sleep Cycle, Alarm Clock, and Sleep as Android, which are apps that can wake you up when you're out of your deep sleep cycle. So I'll just add that as a cool hack. So you can try that. It also shows a really nice graph of how well you sleep, and if you have a sex, then the graph will be even nicer. I've seen that, haven't tried it myself, but. Okay. Now about something more about food, so not only supplements. So we can use food as medicine or as poison. And the first case is, as I said, you need to eat. And I really like this book, Eating on the Wild Side, which is the most fascinating read about vegetables I have ever read. I didn't read much, but yeah, I didn't even think that I would like to read a book about vegetables. This book tracks all the common vegetables we eat these days, kind of reflects on what were the original sources before we started selective breeding, what they contained, and how we got rid of all the nutrients. So basic idea, for example, if you have a leaf of dandelion, you have 40 times more nutrition there than in iceberg lettuce, which is something we think of as, you know, a healthy vegetable. And the reason is because when people ate dandelion leaves, they were pretty bitter and they didn't taste good. But the thing is that calcium, which is represented in dandelion leaf quite a lot, is bitter. So when you breed your vegetables to taste good, what it usually means is you get rid of all the good stuff that just doesn't taste so good. This book showed me how to shop in a real, 21st century supermarket for vegetables. So there are still better and worse choices. So get rid of iceberg lettuce and buy rucola or something else. So there are different things you can do. There are ways how to store. There are ways how to use these things differently. Really fascinating read. Yeah, I put these quotes by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, which says, when it comes to track record, it's hard to beat Mother Nature. So what he meant by this is that there's a lot of back push against these evolutionary arguments about food. So, for example, sunflower oil has been used for 3 generations. So it doesn't kind of have a really good track record. We don't actually know what it does. We actually know it's not good, but it makes sense to eat stuff that has a really good track record, that people have been eating, and they have been eating it at places where they were smart and strong. So yeah. Okay, so general parts of food, carbohydrates that can be converted to sugar, except fiber, which you will just pull out. Fat is actually needed for absorption of vitamins and minerals. So don't do things like buy low-fat yogurt or something like that. It's not a good idea. You need fat, eat good fat. It's great. Protein, so it's basic building parts of a lot of stuff that our body creates. And micronutrients, so vitamins and minerals. Here I would like to say that I'm not a fan of the soil and mana thing, which I know some people here really like, because I think we don't actually know what things we need. So there might be a lot of micronutrients in vegetables that we don't know about yet, and they're probably not in things like Soylent or any artificial manufactured meals. On the other hand, there are some superfoods that can give you some advantage. This is not very long list of superfoods, but this is the ones I like. So again, healthy fats, fish oil, chia seeds. They also add a lot of fiber. So if you don't eat a lot of fiber and you pour water instead of these nice long structures, then eat some chia seeds. Avocado, really good. It contains a lot of healthy fat. Eggs. If you want to get rid of toxins, so heavy metals, if you eat fish that was, farmed somewhere, and so eat either chlorella or spirulina. And there's also a really cool hack if you want to reduce your hangover if you drink a lot. That is, with every glass, get 1 pill of vitamin C, not timed released again, normal vitamin C, a glass of water, and either chlorella, spirulina, or active charcoal. So all these three things will bind parts of alcohol and some byproducts and lead it out of your system, basically. So I tried this, it worked, and then I found out that it's even easier if I don't drink alcohol. So I did that, and now I don't drink alcohol, but it worked. Now about poison. Everyone is very passionate these days about gluten and if we should eat dairy or soy or this or that. So I have a way to find out, and first of all I want to show you some things about when a food might not be good for you. So your body is not a bank account. People count calories and something like that. It's not, you don't enter and withdraw by exercise and counting calories. It doesn't work like that. Of course the calories have some meaning, but your body is more like a chemical lab. So what you want to do is you want to find out how each food you eat affects your body, how you feel. Are you inflamed? Are you tired? Are you this or that? So the first very obvious reaction is allergic reaction, which is triggered by immunoglobulin E. It releases histamine, and it's very fast reaction. So if you're allergic to some food, a real allergy, like maybe if you have a celiac disease and you can't eat gluten, this will be really fast. You will, right after you eat something you're allergic to, you will immediately know it was not a good idea and you ate something you shouldn't. So this is kind of easy. You have a clear connection, you eat something, you feel bad, you said, oh, okay, I shouldn't have eaten that, I'm probably allergic. There's also real intolerance, so your body doesn't produce an enzyme to digest something like gluten, lactose, casein, or something like that. Then you can have sensitivity. So sensitivity works similarly to allergic reaction, but it's much slower. It uses immunoglobulin G, and it takes hours to days. So there are people who have this sensitivity to, for example, dairy. I have experienced this with my girlfriend, and she found out after years of having issues with her immunity, with inflammation and being tired, that she has sensitivity to probably to casein, but dairy. And the way to find this out is not you drink a glass of milk and you feel bad, because you drink a glass of milk and you feel bad in 2 days or 3 days. So the way to find this out is actually to get rid of all the common things you can be sensitive to, and you need to do it all at the same time, because if you're sensitive to 2 different things, which is very common, then you won't actually find out anything. So I will talk about it a little bit more. And then there are food reactions. So maybe the insulin spike and crash is a normal reaction, and it might not be good for you. All these types of bad reactions often cause inflammation. So that's why a lot of people are getting fat and they can't lose weight even if they exercise and don't eat a lot and so on. So thing to debug. So these are the most common things you can be sensitive to. Gluten and soy, I would say drop it if you can. It's very common that people don't have good reactions to gluten and soy, and it doesn't actually add much to your diet. It's very empty calories that don't give you anything else. Dairy, you can have problems with either casein or lactose, and it works differently. Eggs, corn, peanuts, and sugar. There are even people who are very sensitive to sugar and can't eat sugar. So the way to debug it is get rid of all these things for at least 3 weeks. As I said, the reactions are very slow. It can take a week to have some reactions. So you actually need to get rid of first the problematic food, then of the inflammation that food caused, and it takes a time. So 3 weeks off, and then you can test each of these things for 1 week. So let's say Monday on week 4, you eat some gluten, and you wait for a week and record how you feel. Did you fart a lot, which is a very common reaction to gluten? Did you feel bad? Did you have a little energy, and so on? And then write it down. Then you can try soy, and you can try all these things. So I'm not saying that everything here is bad, but you need to find out for yourself, and this is the only reliable way I know of that you can find out. Drinks. If you see juice saying no sugar added, don't drink it, because it probably contains a lot of natural sugar. So orange juice with no sugar added means you have a lot of sugar from orange. So I don't actually recommend juicing of fruits, at least blended, because there are some other things in there, like fiber. Orange juice is a fruit bomb. It actually contains more sugar than Coke. So if you think you're healthy and you're drinking, orange juice and avoiding Coke, it's not the case. Actually, orange doesn't contain too much vitamin C. If you eat a handful of berries, you will get more vitamin C than from one orange. So that's a myth as well. So I would say don't juice fruit. If you want to eat fruit, just eat it, or at least blend it. So my recommendation for drinking is water, mineral water, tea and coffee, and a lot of water. It's a good idea to filter water because it can contain heavy metals or some things that are sprayed around, like glyphosate. So a good filter, I use proper filter, but you can try any other filter. Okay, this is a nice hack. So if you want to try to have if you want to try this, it's intermittent fasting. So basically you fast for more than, let's say, 18 hours. You can do it once or twice a week. It can also give you some energy kick. It can help you detox if you're eating stuff that you're either sensitive to or that's not as good for you. This allows for cleaning. I do it more than maybe 3 or 4 times a day. So a week, sorry. So this is a really nice thing to play with. So make sure when you break your fast, eat enough. So again, it's not about eating less calories. It's about having this period where you don't eat anything, and then make sure you eat a lot of vegetables, at least a lot of fat, and so on. You can Google a lot about intermittent fasting, and it's there's a lot of research that shows some benefits. Again, it might or might not work for you. I had a really good experience with this. Okay, now you're gonna think I'm a really hippie. But meditation. Okay, there are around 6,000 studies that show various benefits. These are some that occur a lot. I don't think these, all of these are actually the direct effect of meditation. So, for example, it has been shown that meditation actually reduces activity in amygdala, so flight or fight syndrome, which is pretty logical. You sit down, you have your eyes closed, there can be a snake or a tiger that's going to eat you, and you relax in this situation. So you're teaching your brain, like, okay, I might be in danger because I can't see anything and it's silent, but I decide to think about something else, you know, perceive stuff from around. So if I'm doing mindfulness meditation, I might perceive sounds or my brain activity or something like that. And I actually, in this situation, try to drive activity out of the amygdala. So when I do this, I can learn this. Brain can learn really fast. That's because of neuroplasticity and formation of new synapses. And if I do that, I actually have less stress, and less stress means less inflammation, less anxiety. I might even fix my headache and be in better mood. So I think a lot of these are related to one simple cause, basically, and these are just interlinked effects. What is really nice about, if you want to perform better, about meditation is that meditation is not actually about turning off your brain. Try that, it's not possible. There are people who are meditating for years and years and they don't have a single meditation when they have no thoughts. It's not possible, I think. And a lot of them just don't realize that they are thinking, actually. What meditation is about is it's about returning back to what you were focused on. So let's say you are focusing on your breath. There's some thought coming into your brain and you realize, okay, I just had a thought, but right now I'm breathing, so I return to breath, I focus on the breath. If you do this once or twice a day, you're actually learning to focus. So imagine a normal situation, you're sitting behind your computer, you're working on this report you really need to do, and then you say, oh, okay, I should have posted this thing on Facebook, that's really cool, I read this article, I'm gonna post it on Facebook. So I, open Facebook, and then I said, okay, fuck this, I'm writing a report. And I'm trained for this, like I do this every day. I train my brain to return to what I was focused on. So I close stupid Facebook and I return back. So, okay, it's like you don't need the hippie stuff, you don't need to believe any religion. You're training your brain to return to what you were focused on. So it's really, really neat thing to do, and I was really surprised when I started doing this how well this works. So it's better to try it out than read an article and say, okay, this is not possible. There's one other nice hack. The problem with the brain is that it is one of the few places in the body that doesn't have any direct feedback about how it's operating. So when you take your hand and you put it in fire or on a hot surface, you actually get a feedback. Oh, don't do this. It's hot. It might burn you. When you're trying to learn something, like I want to learn to pick this glass, and I'm actually gonna drink it. You have constant feedback because you see what you're doing. You have your touch. You know what's going on. And if you do something wrong, like shake, you can actually see and feel it. So your brain knows how to correct this, and it's very easy to learn something if you have feedback. With the brain, you don't actually directly experience if you're doing it well. So there are a lot of people who might be doing meditation and they are not getting anywhere because they don't have feedback. They don't know if they're doing it right, and the teacher usually doesn't look into the brain, but you can look into the brain. And there are various ways to do it. One of them is called heart rate variability. So when you relax, your heart rate becomes more irregular. That's the word. So normally, if you're stressed, it's if you're relaxed, it can be. So very, very, nice example. And there are sensors that actually do this. So you can attach a sensor on your ear, and it can measure your heart rate. And as it's getting more irregular, you can see it directly on the feedback. So there's maybe a light going green, and you see that you're actually relaxing. So with this immediate feedback, and this one is not as immediate as other types, you can actually learn faster because you know you're doing it well, and when you're not doing it well, you actually see the thing is red, and you see you have no variability in heart rate. The other thing to do is to actually put electrodes on your brain and measure EEG. In meditation, you probably want to go to the you want alpha brain waves in the frontal area, so you can put electrodes in your frontal area. You can immediately see, or the device can immediately measure the brain waves, and it can give you fast feedback. The faster the feedback is, the lower the latency there is, the better you learn. So you can actually try these things, and there are a lot of open source projects to do it. One of them is OpenBCI, and there are a lot of other things like this. There's also a thing I haven't tried called Muse headset, which can basically do the same thing. So you have electrodes, you connect it to the application, and you either get a visual feedback or a sound feedback. Very nice feedback is, for example, if you listen to a track some song and if you're going in the other direction, so you have less alpha brain waves, the track glitches, and you don't actually need to do anything about it. It's something that the brain understands by itself, so you don't need to think why I'm shaking and so on. The brain knows that something's wrong and it can fix it. So it's the same with this direct, very fast feedback. You don't actually need to do anything about those glitches in the sound or the changing pictures. The brain will do the work. So you just need to focus on the task, like meditation and breathing and stuff like that. So that can make it faster, but if you don't want to buy these toys and play with it and something like that, it is really fast effect. So if you try it for 2 weeks, twice a day, pick any style of meditation you like, mindfulness, some relaxation, focus on the breathing, body scan, guided meditations, whatever, try it out, and it will really increase your productivity, and you will be less stressed and so on. So it's very, very good. Okay, so this was my talk, and I hope we have time for questions. I think we do. One thing I want to say is that I'm still an IT geek, so if you ask me about things like you have this particular disease or something, I will probably not be able to answer you, and that is both legally, because I'm not an MD with an I certificate, and I will probably don't know what you're talking about. But you can try.
Thank you very much for the talk.
Thanks.
There is no other lecturer in this room, so we have enough time for questions. I would like to inform you that if you prefer to watch a movie, there is a movie playing in the institute. It's called Always Together. Otherwise, you can stay here and ask
Sounds
the questions.
romantic.
Excuse me?
Sounds romantic.
Okay. Just please wait with your question until you have microphone in your hand.
Thank you for the interesting lecture. One question you mentioned in the bulletproof coffee, tablespoon, teaspoon. But I mean, for fats, you can be more specific, like how big is the spoon, how many grams.
That sounds
per
about
serving,
your. Okay.
I mean, we are linear. I mean, the body size and body weight. So it might be good to give a reference frame where to start tuning?
Okay. It's actually, I wanted to tell you this because otherwise you will find out not the nicer way. So MCT oil, usually if you're not used to it and you eat a tablespoon, you will almost probably go immediately to toilet. So if you go this before a meeting in the company, I don't recommend it. So when you try, you actually need to slowly calibrate the dose and get it higher. For me, it was not such a big problem. I tried the whole tablespoon, which my MCT oil actually came with this, calibrated tablespoon thingy. But for some people, and I know a lot of them, they go immediately to the toilet and spend nice 15 minutes of doing the stuff and reading something interesting on their phone. So you need to actually slowly build it up and try it on yourself, and it works differently for everyone. I know some people who actually eat maybe 6 or even more tablespoons per day. I know some that can't eat MCT oil at all, or maybe they didn't try hard enough to calibrate. I usually do 1 or 2, so it totally depends. With fat, you can have 5 tablespoons of fat in your coffee. The only thing is that it won't probably taste as good, and it's this fat thing. So I would actually, with butter and ghee, I would actually go for the taste of the coffee, and you can always eat more butter later. So it depends on your energy needs and how much other fat you eat and so on.
Where do you, the talk was awesome. Where do you get your sources, and how do you judge them, like which of them are probably true?
Okay, so I have smart friends who do a lot of sports and have been trying these things quite a lot. I also follow people, the bulletproof recipes, of course, from the Bulletproof Executive. So I try to learn from Dave Asprey and his work, Tim Ferriss and other people. But actually, I think the best thing is to try on yourself. You might be trying a placebo, but if the placebo works on you, it doesn't matter. So if you actually, eat sugar water and think it helps you and you feel better, drink sugar water, it's fine. So I like to try things out on myself, and that's my best source for my biology. But yeah, friends and colleagues are my main source, actually.
Yeah, I'm curious, what do you think about the vegan diet?
Oh, okay. So I was actually vegetarian for maybe more than 10 years. I did the blood test and I ended up with a PDF of maybe 10 pages of stuff I was deficient in. So then I reconsidered and I started eating a lot of fish. And okay, there are ways to probably. I haven't tried, but I think there are ways to get everything from vegan sources. But people usually don't think about the scale. So, for example, there are some essential nutrients in that are not easily found anywhere else. They are in, for example, in nori, in the the seaweed. But do you eat a half kilo of seaweed every day? Like it's a scale. It's not only about reading on some health portal. Nori contains this. How much of it does it contain? Does every kind of nori contain it, or only some kinds that live or that were harvested there, or like what is the actual content of the things you need? So I think it might be possible to live on a vegan diet. I think it's so difficult that it's not worth doing at all. So I don't think it's a good idea.
Hey,
Okay.
just wanted to add that I think that this kind of a food thing, and saying like something's good or bad, it's kind of tricky because like every 10 years another scientific like research come up, and a lot of new things, like you said, like animal fat was like demonized in the past and stuff like that. So it's hard to tell if it's actually good or bad, Yeah. So yeah, sure. Like
That's my answer.
Yeah,
What people
natural
have
products
been-
are good for sure. That like when you take a food which is super cheap and boosted with like chemicals to enhance the flavor or taste, whatever, then it's obviously bad, But and also with the like sugar fat thing, I guess, because in fact sugar is the only like true thing that powers the brain, So
It's not true. Your brain actually prefers ketones. If it has ketones, it will actually burn ketones first. So it prefers ketones for energy.
yeah, but that's kind of ketones are kind of the power for the brain when you're starving, So or if you have diabetes, you can have ketosis.
People have been sugar starving most of the time when there was not a fruit or vegetable season. So, but what you said, you said that something which I don't actually agree with, that if something is loaded with artificial stuff, it's bad. I'm not saying that. I don't know. I'm saying I don't know if it's bad. It might be good. And it's not about natural products. Like I think using organic and not loaded with antibiotics and pesticides and stuff like that, I think it's safer bet. But what this actually says is, look what people have been eating for thousands of years, and that is what we are adapted to. So that's kind of a paleo principle.
Yeah, sure.
And I actually believe this, and so it's for me it's easy to make choices because I can think if this makes sense in this context. But again, try everything on yourself. If you think that eating I don't know, some gelatin candy bar is good for you and you feel good, you eat it, you have a lot of energy. Like I'm not judging people what they eat.
Yeah, that was my point, because there are like trends coming up and then like they just fell apart into the history, and no one cares about it anymore. So I guess people should really eat what they like, what makes them good, and don't care about it's like paleo diet or maybe raw diet, because I think it's more of a merchandising thing than like a real thing that can help you,
For me, actually, so there are a lot of people who are asking me like, oh, if there's a cake, with gluten and sugar and chocolate and everything and gelatin, aren't you tempted to eat it? And I say, okay, that's not food, because I know that when I eat this thing, I will feel like shit in 2 hours. I know that. I have tried it so many times. I don't consider that food, But if it doesn't have the same effect, if you try this, you clean your system, and the state when you have a lot of energy and your brain works, and you eat it and it doesn't affect you, it's fine. But for me, I know it's not fine, because when I eat that thing, I will feel like shit. I will not be able to focus. I will not be able to do any work. I will probably fall asleep or, fart a lot. So it depends. But for me, the effect is so strong and so clear that I don't need to read another book about paleo or some new diet. I know that when I eat that stuff, it won't work for me. So that's my answer.
Have you tried testing yourself after the change of your, food and everything? You said you have been testing yourself.
Blood test?
Yes.
You mean? Yes, I have.
And what about the difference?
It was okay, but I'm supplementing the vitamins I was deficient in, so that's kind
so
of...
you actually have a scientific proof that the change of your, what you eat have...
Well, yeah,
No,
but
it's not just about
but if I know that I'm usually deficient in vitamin D, and I supplement vitamin D, and then I get a blood test and it shows I have enough vitamin D, doesn't mean that's the change in the diet. If you don't consider the pill the part of the diet.
I was just trying to point out that it's not just about the feeling, but also about some,
You can test it. I had a blood test 2 weeks ago and it was all fine, so this works.
The vitamin B, do you have a hack on how to not smell when you have the B complex, eat it daily?
It takes a while, but it goes away after a few weeks. You need just to live through the part where you do. My mom actually said to me that I look very yellow, and I said, okay, I'm eating a lot of vitamin B complex, so, but it also went away, and I'm not as yellow as I was.
You mentioned that this Soylent, you weren't such a big fan of Soylent. What about these open source Soylents where you can basically choose food from that has a long track record, natural foods that have a long track record and make...
I think that no single food contains everything. So the reason I'm against Soylent is not because it's made of soy or it's too artificial or anything. I don't think it has a variety of stuff. So, I'm not sure about, yeah, I know I can make my own. I saw the keto drink and so on.
Completely different ingredients, like you can have the MCT oil, you can have
I know.
those kind of foods that you were talking about.
I want to eat those kind of things and different stuff. So different vegetables, different animal products and everything. So for me, I think the whole point of these open source Soylents is you have this drink you make yourself, you can configure it as you want. I liked some of the recipes, but I actually want to add real food that has a variety of nutrients to the diet. So I wouldn't eat it as the only food. If I mix it, I like drinking smoothies, and it's the same idea. You blend a lot of vegetables and add MCT. That's fine, but I wouldn't standardize it. I wouldn't say, okay, this is the only food I eat, breakfast, lunch, dinner every day. I don't think it's a good idea. But if you're hungry, you make some keto Soylent and drink it once in a while. It's fine, but it's not the only source of food.
Juraj, have you tried DNA testing?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have some feedback on it, like some experiences? Because I think it's a huge new perspective in biohacking, since you can actually use the database of thousands and thousands of DNA tests of different people and search for tendencies.
Yeah. I have done it. It's a shit thing that it's regulated. So 23andMe is not allowed. That's the service I used. They're not allowed to actually tell you the meaning of the genes. So you can download the file and then get it explained somewhere else. And there are a lot of sites that can tell you. For example, how you get rid of certain toxins and these really well-researched things. On the other hand, it's very difficult to actually know if those studies are not just correlations on 1,000 people, which might be very wrong. But it's been interesting. I, for example, learned that I metabolize caffeine very well, so I can drink more of it, and it doesn't affect me as much as other people. And I know some people who have the same enzyme as me, so same gene. So we can drink caffeine together. Yeah, it's definitely, if you can do it, it's very cheap these days. It's fun thing to do. Don't freak out if you have, 15% higher chance of cancer or things like that. You can actually offset it with diet. Actually, for cancer, I think getting rid of sugar is a good idea. So if you have this information, don't freak out and try to use it. Try to improve your lifestyle to kind of make use of this information and live happily for a long time.
We can have one more question if you want. Okay, so thank you very much for interesting lecture and interesting questions and answers. And thank you.
Thank you.